Here's a harsh reality that millions of Americans are facing right now. Choosing between staying cool and paying rent could literally become a life or death decision. In the sweltering heat of Dallas, Texas, Angela Harmon faces an impossible choice every scorching summer day. Instead of running her air conditioning at home, she and her grandson Leo make daily trips to a neighborhood store operated by their church, not for shopping, but simply to escape the dangerous heat that her modest income can't afford to combat. The cost is just overwhelming, and I'm constantly struggling to balance my budget, Harmon explained, revealing that her own daughter frequently steps in to help cover the mounting electricity bills that threaten to consume her limited resources. But here's where this story takes a devastating turn. Chris Simmons, Harmon's pastor at Cornerstone Baptist Church, witnesses this crisis firsthand throughout his community. The majority of our congregation lives in severe financial hardship, Simmons shared with deep concern. For those battling additional health complications, the inability to afford proper cooling isn't just uncomfortable, it could prove fatal. We're talking about survival here. For families like Harmon's, salvation has traditionally come through the federal government's Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, commonly known as LIHEAP, this critical lifeline. Administered by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, has been keeping more than 6 million Americans from facing impossible heat or bills dilemmas. And this is the part most people miss. That safety net might be disappearing entirely. President Trump's proposed budget for fiscal year 2026 calls for the complete elimination of LIHEAP, a move that would strip away the only energy assistance available to millions of struggling families nationwide. The White House's justification? A spokesperson from the Office of Management and Budget delivered a scathing assessment, labeling LIHEAP a fundamentally broken program plagued by widespread fraud, including thousands of deceased individuals and hundreds of incarcerated people illegally receiving funds. They further criticized the program for disproportionately benefiting states like California, whose radical environmental policies artificially inflate residential energy costs. The administration's alternative plan would shift all responsibility for utility assistance programs entirely to individual state governments, forcing them to fund and manage these services independently. But here's where the controversy really heats up. Andrew Dessler, a respected atmospheric sciences professor at Texas A&M University, has been conducting groundbreaking research into how our changing climate directly impacts what consumers pay for electricity. His findings reveal a troubling trend that most Americans aren't even aware of yet. Dessler's comprehensive analysis demonstrates that climate change is systematically driving up electricity costs across the nation. Between the summers of 2023 and 2024 alone, climate-related factors pushed wholesale electricity prices higher by staggering amounts. 35% in New England, 30% throughout California, 20% in Texas, and 17% in New York. To put this in perspective for everyday consumers, the most recent Consumer Price Index data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics shows electricity costs jumped 5.5% in July compared to the previous year, and experts predict this upward trend will only accelerate. The connection is undeniably clear, Dessler explained. When humans continue pumping greenhouse gases into our atmosphere, global temperatures rise. Higher temperatures force people to rely more heavily on air conditioning, creating massive spikes in energy demand. This creates a vicious cycle that particularly punishes low-income families. Extreme heat drives up electricity demand, which causes energy prices to surge, And those increased costs inevitably get passed down to consumers who can least afford them. However, there's one potentially game-changing solution hiding in plain sight. Dessler's research identifies solar power as the most cost-effective energy source available today, with the potential to significantly reduce consumer costs. Solar technology has become so efficient and affordable that it could serve as a powerful tool for keeping electricity prices manageable, even as demand continues climbing. But here's the controversial part that's got experts worried. Current Trump administration policies are actively working against renewable energy expansion. Recent decisions have dramatically reduced funding for solar projects, while simultaneously promoting higher-cost traditional energy sources like oil and natural gas. These policy choices are going to create catastrophic consequences, Dessler warned. We're talking about making energy significantly more expensive for everyone, especially those who can already barely afford it. As climate scientists predict increasingly severe heat waves and more frequent extreme weather events, the cost of staying cool is projected to climb even higher. For families already struggling to balance basic needs, this represents more than just financial hardship. It's a genuine threat to health and survival. Back in Dallas, Angela Harmon's Daily Reality captures the human cost of these larger policy decisions. "This worry never leaves my mind," she shared. "Every single day, I'm thinking about how I'll manage to keep us safe without breaking what's left of our budget." The intersection of climate change, energy policy, and economic inequality is creating a perfect storm that demands immediate attention. While politicians debate program effectiveness and states consider their options, millions of Americans are facing summer temperatures with insufficient resources to protect themselves. This raises some uncomfortable questions that we all need to consider. In the wealthiest nation on Earth, should anyone have to choose between staying cool and paying rent? Are we creating a system where only the wealthy can afford basic comfort during extreme weather? And perhaps most importantly, what happens to vulnerable communities when traditional safety nets disappear just as climate challenges intensify? What do you think? Should the federal government maintain programs like LIHEAP, or should states handle energy assistance independently? Are we doing enough to address the growing crisis of energy affordability, especially as climate change makes cooling costs more essential than ever? Share your thoughts. This conversation affects all of us.